I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
So we've been working on balancing our lives again, and the last step is to spend time with each other and go out on dates again, and it's been really hard. Having a kid is kind of crazy.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm excited to announce that we passed 10,000 downloads last week, and listenership has been consistently rising with every episode. Now, I know 10,000 may not seem like a big deal to you, but it means a lot to us to have gotten this far. And our stats show that people who listen to one show typically come back to listen to another. So I think that means we're on track. Now, if you like our show and you'd like to support us, please go to iTunes and hit the subscribe button. That and leaving an honest review on iTunes are the two most important things that you can do to support us at this stage. And so, as always, thank you for listening. We appreciate your support. Now on to our couple. Marie and Alexei are definitely the cool kids. Marie is an entrepreneur who has for many years owned a well-known tattoo shop in Haight-Ashbury called Rose Gold's. She's engaging, she's hilarious, she's stylish. Alexei, for his part, is a math professor, and he has a very healthy academic career, and he looks like a skate punk, and he designs insanely cool jewelry for the second business that Marie owns, this one along with Alexei, the very hip jewelry boutique, Fiat Lux. Now, add to those two passions a brand new baby boy named Anaximander. Yes, you heard that right, Anaximander. And you get one very overworked, very happy, and very tired family. And somehow they still manage to host very cool dinner parties. So this episode is really about that work. How do we hold it all together when we have multiple passions and multiple obligations? I'm frankly not sure there is any one solution. These two do have an answer that's working for them for now, but really, this episode is about the inquiry. What, in fact, is balance? I hope you enjoy listening to these two as much as I did recording them. With that, let's go to Marie and Alexei. You know, you're not exactly just your average person. You're a business owner from an early age.
True.
And a successful one. And a badass. And and you own a tattoo parlor, which is a sort of standout type of business.
Yes.
And you, Alexei, same thing. I was just thinking about all the delightful contradictions in the way that you represent yourself to the world. You have a PhD in philosophy, in math, but you teach philosophy. You own a jewelry store, and you've got tattoos all over your body.
That's right.
So,
Those are all true facts.
Did I get them right with the philosophy and the?
Yeah, I mean, I have a PhD in mathematical logic, but that's from the philosophy department. So I'm qualified to teach philosophy courses, which is what I teach right now. And
is that what attracted you to him? It was all these contradictions at the get-go?
I think so. You know, he was a graduate student, loved $100 bottles of wine, wrote a fixie, declared himself a hipster, which I still do not believe to this day. But really, really interesting human being for sure.
Well, what is your meeting story? How did you guys meet?
Oh, you want to take this one?
I'll take it until I start lying.
Then I'll stop you.
I went to college with her old roommate. So I saw her and we were talking and she had just broken up with somebody. I had just broken up with somebody and there's talking and she was like, oh, you know, you'd really love my roommate. And so she organized this big party, which I thought was, you know, technically because I'm so self-centered, was just for me to meet Marie. turns out she had organized this huge kind of like singles mixer thing at their
It was like
apartment.
on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it was
so
on-
it was
on
like
Valentine's
a
Day.
singles.
That's legit.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So, I went upstairs with a friend of mine, and I met Marie, and I'm kind of mingling and talking to somebody at the table. It turns out this is one of Marie's best friends, and this girl said, "Hey, we should trade Facebooks." And I was like, "No, that's okay." And she said, "Why not?" And I said, "Because I'm here for the hot one." Completely joking, but not really understanding my audience. So she kind of stopped the party.
She's
This
pretty.
girl. Yeah, she's pretty aggro. She stopped the
Yeah.
party, made sure that everybody knew what I said, and I thought, I've only been here 15 minutes. I can just leave now. So I got up and left.
So he just
Did
left
you-
in the middle of my dinner party.
Were you? Well, first,
Yeah.
okay, I got to know perspective for both of you. First, Alexei, were you just drenched in shame? Was this one of those like adrenaline fueled tail between your legs, slink out the door moments?
No, I was
no.
like, I actually thought, in my forehead, I thought it's sort of unfair what she's doing. And in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, I know that I did something sort of not awesome right
But you
there.
only
But
say things that are totally true.
I only say true things. That's the thing. And I was joking. But I was actually invited there for Marie, who, in my view, was the hot one.
hot one.
What am I supposed to say here?
Not that if you're most people. But you know what I'm saying? So when you heard that he had said that, what did you?
So my friend she's pretty funny, and she loves kind of arguing with people. And so, she basically said, "Excuse me, everyone, this just happened." So Alexei didn't have any choice. He's like, "I can't stay."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, he is super weird. No one has ever walked out of a dinner party of mine.
He knew you were referring to him. He was referring to you as the hot one.
No, she stopped the party and told everybody exactly what happened.
But what did you know? Which woman was supposed to be the hot one? It could have been anybody in the room.
no, because I knew
Oh,
that.
it was for you for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, whoa, he's really weird. And really smart, and I enjoyed talking to him. So I think I kind of want to date him.
Wow.
So I
I'm not
actually,
surprised by that.
yeah.
I think the level of self-confidence it takes to say something like that, even in partial jest,
Mm-hmm.
is got to be very attractive.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we also left it for a couple of weeks, and then he wrote me an email.
No. Left it, meaning radio silence on her end. And I was like, is it time yet? Is it time? So I gave it about 3 weeks or so. And then finally I emailed her and I was like, hey, I'm really good at math, not great at socializing, but would you like to get a drink, just you and me? And that was kind of how it started. So our first date was March 8th.
March 8th.
Mhm.
And this is one of those situations where you've pretty much been together ever since, kind of thing, or
No. I mean, yes. But I was dating someone else at the time. And then Alexei went to Paris,
For about 3 months.
and he was basically like, when I come back, it's me or this other person. So you have to decide.
wow, while you were gone.
Yeah.
I thought it was a
Also
good
ballsy
opportunity.
move.
I would get back, and it's either a serious thing or it's not. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we took basically about 4 or 5 months or 6 months almost, I think, before we started getting really serious.
Yeah.
So.
Now, this is a good segue because I told Aubrey, well, Aubrey obviously knows my girlfriend / fiance, that she was very curious about the role that your mutual creativity plays in the relationship. And that's kind of an abstract question, but is there a manifest way in which because you are both so creative, and you were saying that you were attracted to him for that kind of creative intelligence, or maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. But
I'm attracted to his intelligence
Yeah. Well, okay.
more than anything.
It's not my chiseled jaw.
Then that's actually
And
kind of the
diction.
question.
And diction. It's excellent.
And grammar.
Grammar.
What role does that play? How does that play out in a manifest way?
I mean, let's frame it in terms of the shop that we own together. because we make our own stuff in that shop. Marie is like, I've never really thought of myself as a very good designer, but I'm technically very good at putting things together, and so making it that way. So in this sense, it's a good pairing that she has a lot of the creative output, and then I'm able to put that into something that's three-dimensional and whatever. I think that's a fair assessment.
I think we actually complement each other in that way. So if I have a vision that we're working on, Alexei will kind of hone it down to a clearer picture, because
Right.
I'm kind of all over the place and he's very like straightforward and technical.
Kind of the way you just did for the question that he just tried to answer.
Yep.
I can see
Good
what
one.
you're talking about. In reverse.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So does it ever manifest any conflicts?
We are 100% completely opposite people. I think that's where most of the conflict comes.
Give me an example.
Like, Alexei's half Greek, so he's very passionate, and when we fight, he like kind of blows up, and I'm like, I can't stand conflict, so I shut down. So we're like on two ends of the spectrum.
Oh, you guys
That
are
is-
like me and Aubrey.
It's really fun for me and not for her. So,
to blow up.
yeah, because I'm just like having a grand old time and
No,
You
you're
know.
not.
singing, screaming, whatever it is. And Marie's just chill as hell. It's really awesome.
That I bet actually. So I bet you that's not awesome at all.
Well,
for you, right? Like when she starts to do that.
So we do have this complementary creative streak, but mine is definitely decidedly more technical, and hers is more creative, and that also shows up when we, I think, discuss things. She really sort of has this one approach to it, and I have this other approach to discussions, or at least compromise and things like that.
So when there's a fight that happens, Marie, give me the breakdown of what it looks like.
Well, we've
Oh, yeah.
learned that we go through kind of the same fights all the time. So it's really frustrating for both of us. So
Meaning it's the same format or it's the same topic?
both.
Okay.
And we've gotten better at it, definitely. Because when it first started happening, it was like World War II. And then it was not talking to each other for a minute. You know, it was really intense.
A minute means like 5 days.
Well, not when we were living together.
That's true.
But basically, Alexei will be like making his point. And, you know, in philosophy, it's very argumentative and really strong, you know. And for me, I'm just like, I almost feel like I don't have time in my life to struggle and fight. And I just put up like my parameters and what I can do. And then I can be swayed, but I just kind of shut down. I don't want to have conversations that are enraged and like heavy. I want to have adult, reasonable conversations.
That's really interesting. So I heard two things when you said that. One was that you don't have capacity, maybe is a word, for the level of rage that can happen. And it's like, why have a conversation that's angry and anger and rage filled? Like, that's just not fun. Why do it? So that's one thing I heard. And the other one was, I don't have enough time in my life to have a long debate about something. Did I get that one right? Because you started to say it and then swerved off a little.
Debating's okay, but I just need it to be like calm.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is from how my family interacts with each other. They're all really like hearty Midwesterners, very like even keeled, you know?
Yeah.
But they'll also like, they're very stubborn and they'll hold grudges for like 20 years. And then the other part is being a business owner for so long, it's like you work all the time. So you learn how to compartmentalize these things
Problems.
so you have time for everything. And so to get so angry, it takes me so long to come down from that I'm just like, I can't do it. I just want to like sit down, look for solutions. And I think one of the things that Alexeis taught me is that relationships aren't business, you know? Like,
What do you mean?
Meaning sometimes you just have to go with the emotion instead of like breaking down everything and being like, okay, I understand your problem. Let's look for a solution. Sometimes you need to get mad. Sometimes, you know, you need to be ecstatically happy. Sometimes you need to skip work, things like that. But that's not my normal.
I've taught her the fine art of anger.
Well, it sounds like she's saying you taught her the fine art of experiencing the range of emotions in a relationship.
Yeah.
Was that a thing you meant to express to her? Or did that just sort of... Did you know that you were, quote unquote, teaching that to her?
No.
It's not a student-teacher relationship. But
No, and that's the kind of thing, like I said, like I feel like we have learned that. And only reflecting now, you know, 3 or 4 laters, do I sort of understand that Marie's taught me how to be a little bit more businesslike in the relationship and not simply full of emotion.
But now I don't understand, because I thought she was saying at first that you're the philosophy guy and you break down the argument logically.
Well, so every argument starts with an emotional point, right?
Yes.
And then I dig into my philosophical, my logical background. So I have here's the point that I need to make, and then here are the resources I have to make them.
Right.
May the best man win, right?
Yeah.
And so that can take a long time for me to get from, you know, all of the premises in my argument to my conclusion, which is always correct.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it usually takes me long enough that I kind of work myself into it.
Yeah.
And then I get more and more upset as I'm going. And
Well,
then finally, I'll get to that conclusion, and she'll be like, literally like that.
she'll just pause
Yeah, just pause.
because she...
And then continue. And she'll say, yeah, I see your point. If I've done it long enough. These days. You know, 3 or 4 years ago, fighting would kind of end in us not feeling that way about each other. So where, you know, we'd have to take some timeouts in separate parts of the room for 1 or 2 minutes, i.e. 3 or 4 days.
Well, also, I'm like a supreme negotiator in business. So what I do, Alexei has like all the information, and then he goes towards one end point. And I'm like, this isn't working. Let me try this tactic, and let me try this. And he'll stop me in an argument and call me on my shit and be like, we're not even talking about that. And I'll be like, okay, that is not working, so let me try something else. And so
wait, I don't understand. You guys gotta give me a concrete example of what of a recent fight, and then how that worked out.
I mean, the thing is, since we've had the baby, we're not fighting about the old stuff. We're just fighting about like time.
Mm-hmm.
Time
management.
I have a lot to do right now, and so does Marie. And so invariably, like when we come into conflict, it's about how little extra time there is to do the stuff that we'd like to do, like literally be with each other and things like that. So, or be with a kid.
What a funny thing to have a conflict about. I mean, I know that it manifests, and I'm always looking at when conflict arises with Aubrey or anybody in my life for that matter, and I look at the underpinning fear, because it really comes down to a fear usually that's driving that emotion. And it's always so funny. You two have a conflict about that you want to spend time with one another.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, literally that. So I think I work too much and too hard, and I think she does too. And invariably when we have fights these days, it's about I think that we should restructure our lives or the shop or something in a certain way, and she thinks that's like unreasonable. So for example, this is my all in or all or nothing. Like, let's close the shop. Let's forget it. We can just move to Nebraska and
Live on food
just live on
stamps.
food stamps and have a great life. And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, well, maybe we can take a step back and not close the shop, but figure out what to do so that we can have a little bit more time with each other. And so usually we like meet in the middle now at this point about that.
So we've been working on like balancing our lives again, and the last step is to like spend time with each other and like go out on dates again. And it's been really hard. Like having a kid is kind of crazy.
But it sounds like it's caused a certain kind of maturity. Now, before I ask about that, this is a good point to stop and say, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Together Show, the podcast about what's really going on with people's relationships. So we were just about to talk about what's changed having had kids or a child. So, and it sounds to me like there's been some kind of maturing or emotional development around conflict specifically in your relationship. For some reason, you're saying a lot of the old fights have gone away.
I don't even remember what we used to fight about.
I think a lot of the alcohol's gone away. So maybe a lot
It's
of
part of the fuel.
fighting's gone
That
away.
Yeah.
that is instructive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just that, though, is it?
No.
I mean, the funny thing about fighting, I think that everybody experiences, is looking back after a certain amount of time has passed. You can't believe you cared so much about the thing that you were up in arms about.
Of course, yeah.
And certainly when circumstances change. And now your circumstance is a child. Is that it, or am I just...
Yeah. I mean, so the primary thing that we fight about now is time, just not having enough of it. And that's primarily because we have this extra pressure on our time and in our lives.
I think also the fights have changed because we're very much on the same team. We're doing this like really, really hard thing, and we're doing it together, and we're like a family now. And so it changes the dynamic.
Not even like a family. We actually are a family now.
I guess technically we're like a nuclear family.
Yeah.
very much like a nuclear family?
Yes.
Well, you're the first couple I've interviewed post childbirth, and the question I've wanted to ask everybody is are there differences in opinion about how to raise the kid?
Not really.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
That's such good news, but I think
It's excellent
unique.
news. I don't know. I mean, I want to say that other parents have to think the way that we do, because how do you get by? There's no way that we could do this well if we had really different views about what to do with an Axamander. I mean, even his name.
So we have different styles, but the end goal is very clear for us.
You have different styles, but the end goal.
Yeah.
So when I was a divorce lawyer, most of my cases were child custody. And a lot of those had come about because the parents, they were getting along fine when they were just a married couple, but something got triggered in one or both of them when the child was born that said, it is vitally important now that this precious life is here to behave in a particular way. We have to do a thing in a particular way. We have to teach the child Chinese, for example. That's a fairly innocuous example, but there's always something. And then the other parent would disagree vehemently. Oh, no, we definitely cannot do that thing. And it would create a crack in the dynamic, and then that would blow up.
The two requirements that we've had with him, other than like, the normal stuff like teaching him basic child developmental skills, was Marie was like, he has to learn how to swim right now.
Smart.
And I was like, we can't feed him Gerbers. That was it. Basically, two of the easiest things ever, because I was like, I love swimming. Axe loves swimming. Marie loves swimming.
And Gerbers is gross.
And Gerbers is gross, right? So what else is there to say? I think those are the two things that were like, we have to do it this way.
And we have a focus on education. And I don't know. We very much see him as like a combination of us, and we're very different, and we teach him in different ways, but our focus is like teaching him as much as possible.
Yeah.
So he can be the world leader.
Well, with his name, I mean, he really does have a torch to carry.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you wish you had discussed before having kids?
No.
I think Alexei and I discussed a lot,
Yeah.
like everything.
We had been together, I think, 5 years or something like that before he came along. And you know, we had talked about it, but I don't think we ever really discussed, well, you know, is our kid going to go to college? Because I think we just sort of both are, I guess, intelligent enough or something enough to know that that's sort of how it should be. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, should he choose to, of course, but
Yeah.
I don't think we ever really discussed things in the same way that you think of or you hear about parents discussing what they are going to do when they have a kid.
Yeah.
So, and we're also a little bit more fly by the seat of our pants. So the things that we're discussing now, probably we should have, like, we're trying to find like some property, for example. And I know a lot of people do that before they have kids because that's the kind of thing that, like, let's buy a piece of property, have a kid, right? So we can raise our kid on this piece of property.
Yeah, we're kind of doing everything.
Yeah, you're not even
backwards.
married yet.
Right.
No.
So we had a kid, we're going to get married, and then we're going to buy some land.
Or maybe buy land.
Buy land and then get
Yeah,
married,
that would
yeah.
be the reverse order.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, what about time issues? Would it even have been possible to discuss time issues in advance of the baby in a way that was meaningful?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think you know what it's going to be like, and so there's not really a point of discussing it.
Yeah.
You know, we're like trying to figure things out now, and it's hard, but you can't do it beforehand.
Yeah. You know, it sounds to me like the critical factor that you guys have that's really working is flexibility.
Yeah.
You've got an intention, which, while you're in love, you want to stay together, and you've got this kid and you want to raise him the best way possible, but who knows what the circumstances are going to be.
Right.
And so you remain flexible, and as long as you're moving towards that goal, it doesn't really matter the path.
Right.
Is that about right?
That sounds
Yeah.
about right. Yeah.
Definitely.
Where did you get that? Why people are not flexible? Were you just born this way, or did you learn it as a?
I feel like I had a very meandering course to get where I am today. So, and I don't think none of the things that I've done, like I was a chef for a while. You know, we own a jewelry shop together. I'm like kind of a decent amateurish goldsmith. And I don't think I would have been able to accomplish those kinds of things if I hadn't been flexible. So here's a good example. About, I think, 2 years or 3 years into us being together, maybe 2 years, you know, Marie opened up the shop and wanted my help, and so I offered it to her.
Wait, this was Fiat Lux.
Fiat Lux, yeah.
Because you'd had Rose Gold's, the tattoo shop, for a long time.
Yeah, and I also had a jewelry store before Fiat Lux too.
Oh, okay.
So for like 8 years, 10 years or something
Yeah.
like that.
And so now Marie, you're now at this point, you're thinking, okay, it's time to open up another jewelry shop. And Alexei, you were going to grad school at that point?
I was going to grad school at the time, yeah.
Okay.
And how it worked out is that I ended up really enjoying some of the things. / Marie really needed my help. So I took the flexibility that I had in going to graduate school. In fact, I took a couple of years off from graduate school.
Right.
And then sort of learned some of these skills, and then it sort of became our shop. That was also a point of tension, me not going to graduate school, but doing the shop, which was sort of Marie's thing. But at the same time, you know, 4 years later, I see it as something that's benefited me greatly and has also sort of enriched me. And I don't think that I would have felt that way if I hadn't been so flexible. And I think that's a really important way to raise him to let him make his own choices and decisions. You know, your life is basically what you make of it, right? The choices that you make are what we call destiny or fate or something like that through your life. And the only reason that I've gotten to a point where I feel pretty good about myself most days, I'm an amateur goldsmith with a PhD from Stanford. That's not bad.
That's not terrible.
Yeah, on paper at least it sounds great. Is by having been able to be a little experimental in my life. And I think that raising him that way is totally a great idea. And I think Marie agrees. Why not? You
Yeah.
know, let him make his own mistakes and let him choose his own path.
What are you guys doing wrong?
Maybe working too much.
Working too much, for sure. Yeah.
But it's hard when, you like what you're doing, and so you're committed to that as well. And then it just, I don't know, sometimes you sacrifice your personal life, and that's a really hard thing to correct.
Right. Yeah, that's the point of dispute for you guys right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I still am curious how it is playing out. So you both want to be together more, but you both want to work more. And Alexei, you're thinking just if you restructure, is it?
Yeah, something. It's very confusing even to us, so which is typically what we are, fighting about, like probably our own confusion. Well, if we do this, then this will happen. If we don't do that, then that'll happen. So, I mean, yes, right now I have more or less full-time job teaching, and then a more or less full-time job helping out with the shop, and then I'd say more or less, probably more or less, full-time job
That's a
with
great way to articulate
with the
that.
boy, and then somehow we're supposed to wedge time for each other in there,
Right.
and it's just not working. So we have to, I think maybe just a whole restructuring will work, where
Right.
the time is just distributed differently. But probably I'm going to have to drop one or the other things, not the kid.
Thank goodness.
For all of you listening out there.
This, before I dive in, what would you say to that, Marie? Does that sound about?
Yeah. I mean, we're just stretched a little bit too thin, but because, these things are passions, it's hard to give anything up, We have great people helping us with all the businesses. And so we're trying to figure out how much responsibility we can give away and still have everything kind of under control and moving in the right direction. So it's just a struggle right now.
Are you guys experiencing a downtick in your connection?
To each other?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say so.
I don't think so.
How long
Just
is it-
less
how long is
frequent.
it-
Does
how
that
long
make
has it been?
sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah.
How long has it been
Since
the
what?
baby was born? How old's Axe is the question. There's another way to ask
8
that.
months,
8 months, yeah.
which is kind of,
Yeah.
it's a long time.
Yeah, you guys are still going.
We're still figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
We referred to the first 3 years after a child is born in the divorce business. We refer to those first 3 years as the zombie years. Because you're doing, every parent who's listening to this is nodding right now saying, yep, that's exactly what we're working all the time. We never sleep, and there's no time for anything, and sex goes away, and I never see my wife, and it's just.
But why is it like that? I don't think that we should have a society where it's like that.
Well, sounds like an opportunity for restructuring.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, in the Netherlands, people take a year off for maternity and paternity leave, right?
As business owners.
I have no idea.
I mean, I don't know how it works either.
I
But
doubt it.
But you wouldn't. I mean, if you were working for Facebook, they'd give you.
Yeah.
Sheryl Sandberg's right there. She'd give you however many months,
Right.
and you too. but you guys don't. You're
Right.
like me. You're mavericks on your own. So you're following passion projects, as you said. What do?
You work.
You work until you strike it rich. When you strike it rich, you take all the money and you move to Nebraska.
So yeah, I mean that's the essence of the child rearing problem. I mean, one answer that a lot of people say is, well, we're just going to head down, going to soldier on for these 3 years until that kid's in daycare and then things change.
But then you might lose your connection.
You often do. Very,
Yeah.
very often do. This is why you see so many divorces at year 3, and you also see so many people going into couples therapy and reconnection retreat weekends, but that's the risk. If you just heads down and push through, you lose that connection. And but you guys are 8 months in, and you just told me there's no loss in connection.
No, it's just less frequent. So we sort of made this conscious decision. I wouldn't even say sort of. We did make this very conscious decision that we were going to call on and lean on as many friends as possible. For example, the one sitting right there, to help us, basically babysit the kids so that we could go have short little dates, dinner, whatever, that kind of thing. And we've done that a few times, and it's been, I think, fairly successful. Even if it's not, we go have dinner and then make love for 12 hours afterwards. It's at least we go have dinner and then feel better about each other and then maybe make love for 12 hours afterwards, the next day or the day after.
That's actually a really great little tip or a practice.
Yeah.
Do you think most parents are reluctant to lean on their friends in that way?
I think so, because some of the people that we've leaned on have been, one of our friends said, it's us, so it's cool if you leave him till 11:30, but I don't know if that's going to fly with everybody, which I took to mean 11:30 was a little bit late.
But most of our friends don't have children.
Right.
So it's like a really kind of strange thing. Like if someone would have asked me to babysit before we had kids, I would have been like, maybe you don't want to leave your child with me.
Actually, I'm fairly sure that's exactly what we said before we had him.
Well, now you guys have, but the answer is, that's one good answer, but you've somehow gotten over the reluctance to ask your friends.
Yeah.
What would you say to other couples who haven't gotten over that reluctance yet?
They should do it. Yeah. I mean, I daydream sometimes about people who have kids and like live near their parents, and I'm like, oh my God, they can just drop their child off.
Yeah.
And they can have a full night with each other. Parents
are such a boon, aren't they?
Man.
Grandparents, I should say.
Yes.
Now, what about all night? That's a whole other thing. Mm-hmm. Now, with a grandparent, you would drop the kid off for the whole evening.
Yeah.
And then you would be able to make love all night and then sleep in and have breakfast and then pick them up at grandma's house the next day. But with a friend, I'm guessing you would be really reluctant to do that.
We haven't done that yet.
I'm actually totally fine with that.
I think I don't know if we know anyone who would take him all night.
I'm sure that if you asked people.
Yeah, I think we know some people. But I think we're going to try our first. Grandma gets to take her grandson for a week. We're going to go to Mexico with a couple of our friends.
Wow.
I'm so
just
excited.
Gone for 5 days. I'm going to fly back, pick him up, and then drive him down to Tucson to meet Marie. So it's...
Well, now I'm amazed. Again, how you meet so many parents who won't let their kids out of their sight for more than a couple of hours, much less stay with a friend overnight or their grandparents for a week. Who are those parents, and how are you different from them?
I believe very strongly in the bonk philosophy. That's the theory that you should let your kid out of your sight so that he can hurt himself, come back with a shiner or something like that. That's happened to an Axomander a few times. But you know what? He doesn't really chew on the table, our glass table, so much anymore because he did it once or twice and hit his head on it, and he's like, I'm done with it.
He still does that.
So I actually think that he still does, but not as much. I think it's like fairly healthy to let your kid out of your sight for...
Yeah, and be with other people. Like, we're basically socializing this human. So if you don't do it from a young age, then he's going to start freaking out, like every time you leave or anything like that. I mean, he kind of goes through that stage right now anyway.
Yeah, but whatever.
And what a less stress load on the two of you to have that perspective.
Yeah.
So much healthier. I should probably wrap, but I do have one more question.
Let's do it.
You said something earlier, Marie, about your family holding grudges.
Uh-huh.
Is that a thing for you?
Not as much, because I've seen what, the consequences are of that. So I don't really do that, but I internalize a lot. So
what does that mean?
Well, I guess I don't hold active grudges where I'm like hating on someone, but I do I think we both kind of blacklist people if they do something really
You
bad.
blacklist people very quietly. I blacklist
Oh,
people
yeah.
to much fanfare. Yes. That person is blacklisted. That's how I would do it. And she just won't say anything about it.
I'll
I'm
just
just
be
not
like,
interested in talking to them anymore.
let them live their life. I'm kind of done. Yeah.
But that's similar, though, to what you were saying earlier about when you get upset, it takes time to come back down from it, right? Is that
Yeah.
are those similar? Are they related?
I think definitely. And I mean, I don't blacklist people all the time, but in my professional career, definitely I've had one or two scenarios where I don't want to deal with that person.
Which makes sense, but I'm curious about why do we, as a species, hold grudges? Why don't we do that? Is it just learning from mistakes? Because it can get so out of control.
I think it's about integrity and your morals. So if someone crosses a line with you, you just feel like that person is not worth dealing with anymore.
And
That's
then,
usually what happens with me.
Yeah.
We have pretty straight moral compasses. And when somebody crosses it, we're just done.
Yeah. There's not enough time right now to try to massage adult people into being, the people that you want them to be or that you think they should be or something like that. We just don't have it
or
right
they
now.
are not.
Yeah.
But then what about with one another? So is that why it takes time to come down from anger, because your partner has crossed the line and you're trying to find a way to allow that to be okay?
Just quickly, it takes me about 15 seconds. So literally I can have a giant blow up and then I'm like, hey, do you want to go get crab?
Yeah, you're an amazing species. People like you are just a phenomenon to me.
Yeah.
Aubrey's the same way.
Yeah.
And I'm like Marie. I get so freaking angry, and then and I don't want to be. I'm angry at
Yeah.
myself for being angry, and then I'm holding it. It takes me. And then I try to go away so I can process and let it go.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what Marie does.
That
yeah.
pisses Aubrey off
Yeah.
more because she's
Yeah.
feeling abandoned. So we have to have this language, like I guess safety words almost. It's like, okay, I'm going to have to go away now. Just give me 10 minutes. But why? Why do I care? Why do you care so much?
I think because it feels disrespectful to have someone be so angry. I know that Alexei is a good person and that he has great respect for me, but it feels disrespectful. And also, I told you something at the very beginning when we started dating, and I said, through a relationship, all of these conflicts add up and they chip away at your feelings for one another. And so I was like, just please choose your battles wisely. Like, don't fight with me about something that's not important. So
We don't anymore. So we only fight about the most important,
yes.
biggest issues of
Yeah.
the day.
But I think if we were fighting about ridiculous things all the time, I would be out.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't. There's no nitpicking. We don't do nitpicky stuff. It's either
No.
we're either fighting about something or it's bliss. It's my point of view.
All
Yeah.
or nothing,
Yeah,
always.
all or
Ones and
nothing.
zeros.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
How do you get the chips off the scale?
I don't know. I think it's just because I really love Alexei.
Yeah.
And I know
Usually it's you see me do something that's like really excellent or magnanimous or like it's something like that. Honestly, I'm kind of being an asshole, but I'm not being a total. But usually it's I've done something that's like above and beyond your expectations of who I could be, and that kind of like reminds her or something like that there's this core guy who, even though I keep throwing chips on this scale,
She loves the
Yeah.
core guy.
there's that core guy who's back behind there. And we don't nitpick, so it's not our arguments really have been basically about one thing. And it's more or less time for
Yeah.
like a couple of years, even before the kid and now with the kid, and that's something that we keep working on. We're getting better at it. So I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I think you can too.
Yeah,
usually
we're
for those
definitely
kinds of
getting
things.
better.
Well, what's so obvious about the two of you when you meet one another is how much you care for each other. It's not just PR and on the surface and
That's right.
stuff you're supposed to be saying. It really comes through in the way you
Yeah.
glance at one another. And that was a
You should
pretty cheesy wink you just gave
Thank you.
that nobody can see, but that was, yeah, it really does come through. And so it's nice to hear that the thing that you're fighting about is wanting to spend more time with each other.
Yeah.
I think
beautiful.
because you cook for me all the time, that takes some of the chips off the
Also, there's
table,
also
too.
that. Yeah. Actually, it's a real concrete thing. Not just me being magnanimous, but I cook a lot too.
Acts of service. Yeah, that's a good takeaway.
You should get Marie to say cauliflower, because that's really why we're still together.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I have some Midwesternisms.
Let's hear it.
Like I say, like
See? This
get
is
out of
what's gonna
town,
happen.
and I say cauliflower.
Oh, jeez.
I say oh geez sometimes
How
too.
about mom?
Mom.
Oh, it's not ma'am.
No, I think it's normal.
It's really just cauliflower.
Cauliflower.
Which we feed our child a lot of, so I get to hear a lot of these days.
That's all for Marie and Alexei, folks. If you're curious about these two, you can check out their jewelry store, which is called Fiat Lux, at fiatluxsf.com. That's FIATLUXSF.com. They also have a great Instagram account for that store. And their tattoo shop, Rose Golds, is at rosegoldsf.com. That's ROSEGOLDSF.com. If you enjoyed the show, please review us and subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a big difference when you do those two things. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out via one of our social platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is Facebook/TogetherShow. Our Twitter and Instagram accounts are both at Together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. Our producer is Charlene Goto. Char, thanks a lot for the late nights. I really appreciate it. Our web designer is Courtney Munna. Courtney, same thing. Late nights. I really appreciate it. Our art director and my one and only is Aubrey Pick. She took me to a movie tonight. Thanks, babe. Also an awesome late night. And thanks once again to my guests, Marie and Alexei. Guys, seriously, definitely do not forget the fish pate in Portugal. That's all for today, folks. See you next time.